So I do want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us today. And I put this photo up simply because it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And as evidence of that, here's me Christmas shopping yesterday.
Hey.
Now, does that look like real snow or fake snow? It looks like fake snow, but it's actually real.
Yeah, I was going to say behind you, it definitely looks real.
It is very real. So this is in Tanger Outlets in Ottawa. So, yeah. Fun way to get started, I thought, today. So definitely looking forward to a conversation. We're going to hear from a couple of our advisors to share a little bit of story. I wanted to start off with a bit of a devotional that I read yesterday. And it says this verse that I believe is very powerful. For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be glory forever. And I thought, what a reminder for all of us that the opportunities that we have come from him. Ultimately, they come from him. And our work is really through him. And therefore, our business is to him to bring glory. And this is, by the way, from a book, New Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp. The next day, which is December the 4th, he highlights this and he says, you were designed for it. You have missed the point without it. And then he asked the question, what is it? He said, living every day for the glory of the Father. And that's an interesting perspective to realize that whatever we do in our lives, ultimately it's for the glory of the Father. And that's exciting because we get to be part of his story. And so I wanted to just share with you as we start the importance of never underestimating what God puts in your heart. And I wanted to share that God put something in my heart back as far as 1989, maybe even before that, I don't know. But I remember this from 1989, and Kathy reminded me of it. The idea of having partners to support me in ministry. And if you look at the history of Kingdom Advisors didn't exist in 1989. I was a youth pastor at that time, and I was not at all involved in the financial services industry. And yet here we are today. And you guys are, I didn't know any of you at that point, but now we're partners together in ministry. And I say that because without your partnership, Kingdom Advisors in Canada would not actually be possible. So I want to say at this time of the year how grateful I am. And some of the stories that I hear are so encouraging to hear. And I wanted you to hear some of that today. But just to give you a couple of highlights of the year that has been, 2023, was a transition year in some respects because the financial dealings of Kingdom Advisors Canada went under the Great Commission Foundation. And that allowed our donations in Canada to remain in Canada. And prior to that, our donations would go through the U.S. office, and that's the way it was since 2017. But our donations this year, for the first time, actually remained in Canada. To be used in Canada. And this is the first year since 2017 that I was actually paid in Canadian dollars. Miracle of miracles. But yeah, it's been great. One of the benefits of that as well was when we did our regional events in May, our advisors were able to pay in Canadian dollars. So that's exciting. One of the things I would love to see in hopefully in 2024 would be also that our memberships would be able to be paid in Canadian dollars. So I will let you know that that is being talked about. There's no timeline necessarily or no deadline to get this done, but it is on the horizon. So just to make you aware of that. We had 145 attendees to our regional events last year. That's the most we've ever had since we started our work in Canada. And by the way, I do also want to thank you for keeping me busy. This is Tuesday, and already this week, two of you on this call have referred other people to me that I should be in contact with to learn more about Kingdom Advisors. And that's exciting because that's another role beyond your financial support that you have. And I want to encourage you to continue to do that because it connects other people who you believe should be connected with the work of Kingdom Advisors. Also, we have 32 registered thus far for the annual conference in Florida. Some of you are already registered. So if you are registered, we look forward to the opportunity to gather in person there. And it's interesting, we have about a third of those registered are first-time attendees to that conference in Florida. So that's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. One in particular that I noticed when I looked at the registration list was a bit of a surprise to me because he's not necessarily connected, hasn't been connected with Kingdom Advisors in the past, has not attended a study group that I'm aware of, and he's registered. So I'm curious to know which champion may have influenced him to be there, because that's what I suspect, because many of the people that come to our events are influenced by you. So wanted to say, keep up the good work. So I wanted to introduce Ryan Taves to you. And Ryan, by the way, is our latest champion, new this year. And Ryan did a search for Christian financial planners. So Ryan, I'd love for you to tell us why you did that search and what came out of that, if you would.
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. Well, the last couple of years have been a time of considerable change for me. And there were two events that stand out that sort of changed the trajectory of my life, actually. The first was a video call with a missionary kid, a friend of mine that I grew up with in Chad, Africa. And he was going through a financial crisis at the time and struggling with something. And wasn't a particularly difficult issue, but for him, it was a significant challenge in his life. In fact, it got him to the point where he was questioning whether he should continue being a missionary or whether he should possibly give up his missionary career and, as he put it, get a real job. And it struck me very hard at that point that missionaries just did not have access to financial planners. They don't have the assets. They don't have the connections. They're gone a lot. They're traveling. And so a seed was planted in my heart at that point in time. And it grew and grew until a point where about a month later, I sat down and Googled Christian Financial Planners Canada. And wouldn't you know, what came up was Kingdom Advisors. And I went to the website, and I had been praying about this concept of financial planning for missionaries, but first of all, I thought it was absolutely crazy. And secondly, I didn't know how I could connect with other Christian financial planners across the country. So when I Googled Christian Financial Planners Canada, I went through the list and I said, Lord, please, if this is something that should happen, can you please give me some encouragement? Can you give me some guidance and give me some direction? And especially someone who will tell me that I'm absolutely not crazy. And I literally went through the list and I came to Tim Jenkins. And I literally cold called Tim Jenkins through LinkedIn and said, hey, Tim, you don't know who I am. I'm from Victoria, and I have this crazy idea, and I'm hoping I can just share a concept with you and get some feedback. I don't know anything about Kingdom Advisors. I don't know any other Christian financial planner. And so Tim Jenkins was the first person. It turns out he's a champion. Turns out he's connected with Kingdom Advisors. He introduced me to Lauren Robinson, Lauren Jackson, and a number of other people. And we had, I think, a 30-minute appointment phone call scheduled, and it turned out to last about 45 minutes, as I recall. And one of the most profound realizations for years that I had came out of that phone call with Tim Jenkins, and that was the fact that Christian financial planning professionals need to tithe their time, tithe their skill, tithe their professional skill. And I usually stand when I'm having a phone call, and I sat down, Tim, when I heard that, because it was a revelation to me. about this concept of tithing time.
So,
And
Ryan, if I could just jump in
yeah,
there, how many years have you been in the business as a financial advisor?
35 years.
35 years, and
Yeah.
you were asked by your doctor to retire this year,
Yes.
and so that's where your vision and calling came. So I would like to bring Tim in on the conversation just to share briefly about his recollection of that conversation, because many times I think we have conversations with people and we don't realize how significant they might be. So, Tim, what were your thoughts from that conversation? I assume you can remember the conversation.
Well, our team would probably say I can't, but I actually can. And so what was interesting was, obviously Ryan reached out to us. He got put into my schedule. I was actually driving at the time, just good use of time. Was a networking call and I could take it in my car. And so I had extra time, and kind of looking back now, it's one of those calls that it was like, you just have a call, you want to encourage somebody, you want to, use the ideas that come to your mind and make connections for anybody. And so at the time, the significance of the call in my mind wasn't that significant. It was like, hey, this is what Ryan's doing. I'm going to meet him and talk to him and see how I can help. And how I could help was, hey, you need to talk to Lauren. You need to talk to the Laurens. And you got a great idea. And, just really to encourage him. It was something that we were already doing as a firm, was tithing our talent. We wanted to do that. We'd been doing it in a minor way every year. So, and I didn't come up with that. I learned that from somebody else. So all I did was give him ideas that I had taken from somebody else and encouraged him, because I think it was really important and really good.
And that's the amazing thing. We have these conversations. We don't necessarily realize the significance to others and how impactful they might be. And I think that's part of what you do as champions. So, Ryan, I'll ask you for a concluding comment. The result basically has been you did retire from the industry, and now you are working with missionaries. So, give us a quick update on how many families you've basically reached and helped.
Sure, thank you. Well, we've been working with an organization called MORE, and MORE networks with about 65 different Canadian mission organizations, and they have been hugely impactful in our ability to reach missionaries. And in fact, there are a couple of people on this call that have helped missionaries, and you know who you are, so thank you in advance. But we have helped 20 missionary families this year alone, and ranging from very complex issues that would have cost them probably many thousands of dollars to get outside professional help on, to very young couples starting out their missionary career. So 20 families. And if Tim had said, no, that's a crazy idea, Ryan, chances are really good that these 20 missionary couples would not have been helped. So we're really grateful for that. And Kingdom Advisors has been a big part of that. So thank you.
That's awesome. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can reach out to Ryan. I know time is significant for all of us. We all have busy schedules, but if that's something you feel led to connect with Ryan, please do that. And the email that Ryan sent to me, he said this: all this to say that I would not have proceeded with this ministry launch had I not received some encouragement from Tim, and then ultimately from you as well. So that's the significance of what we were able to do as champions. And before I bring Rob on, I did want to ask Jason a quick question. Jason Yep is with RBC. Jason, how long have you been in the industry?
In my position, 25, and overall 30 now with RBC.
So you've had some influence in your role, and I do see you as a transformed advisor. And tell us very quickly about an advisor who reached out to you because he saw that transformation.
Yeah, actually, it's very interesting, because when he first reached out to me, he just asked if we can go grab lunch so that he can get some thoughts around my career. He was a little bit, more junior than I was, and I had no idea where the lunch was going to go, except that in the end, we probably spent 3/4 of the time talking about Kingdom Advisor, and it was wonderful.
And also, along with that, you, as a result of your transformation, going through the core training, you ended up becoming a champion. Can you tell us why you felt the need or the urge to support the ministry of Kingdom Advisors? And in the past couple of years, you've actually increased your support. So why did you feel a move to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Again, as you mentioned, KA has been transformative. It's been transformative for me, absolutely personally as well as professionally. I had by 2019, I'd been in the industry for 20 some odd years, and I had always felt that as much as I enjoyed the industry, at some point I'm going to have to quit my job. It's a great day job. I enjoy what I do. But there's got to be something more to this, and I knew that moment was coming. And then I came across KA Lauren, our discussions, and then the core training. And in the core training, Ron Blue had made a statement in the later modules where he says, if you're not doing your calling, why are you doing what you're doing? And so as I came across that, I realized perhaps that we are all where we're supposed to be. As much as I enjoyed this industry, it's also an industry that's that is fallen. It's full of fear and greed, and my thought over many years was surely my calling cannot be to make my rich clients richer. And then as I started to go through the KA training, I realized that maybe we're just called to be different in the financial industry. We're called to be individuals, Christians who lead with the biblical worldview. And so as that started to settle on my heart over the last 3 years, really it's been transformative. I recognize not only in my day job, which I truly enjoy, that we are called to live as Christians and to lead with the biblical worldview in this industry, but also that the financial resources in my hands are purely meant to be stewarded. And so as I've come to understand that, things that were covered in the core training, like a financial finish line, was hard for me to grasp when I came across it. It was even more difficult for me to share with my wife when I came across it and said, hey, we should think about a financial finish line. And she said, what are you talking about? And we'd always, I think, been fairly understanding of giving and all of that. But K8 really does give it something way more important, which is, again, to understand this industry and the tools that we work with the biblical worldview. So Lauren, yes, we continue to look at KA and how we can help in all ways, because in Canada, certainly, Lauren, our discussions, I always say the harvest is plenty and the workers are few. And that being said, just a little bit of financial professionals leading with the biblical worldview could be completely transformative in our country. And so from that standpoint, that's really where I'm so happy to be supporting.
That's awesome. And Jason always encourages me by saying something like, Lauren, you really have your work cut out for you in Canada. I can't tell you the number of times he said that to me. And it makes me realize, like, hearing these stories, and I trust it's encouraging for you to hear some of what is happening from the ministry of Kingdom Advisors. And I do want to welcome Randy on the call as well today from the Atlanta office. I work with Randy fairly closely. Randy does a lot in the area of study groups, as well as basically the advisor channel generally. Now I want to bring Rob in on the call, and Rob is the new CEO of Kingdom Advisors, and I know you're all familiar with Rob, being the president prior to that. So Rob, I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit about your vision around Kingdom Advisors. You've been around for longer than I have with Kingdom Advisors, that's for sure. So share with us a little bit about your vision, and maybe even have you tweaked it at all since becoming the CEO?
Yeah, well, thanks, Lauren. So, man, what a privilege to be on with each of you. So thankful for your involvement in Kingdom Advisors. It just thrills my heart, and I know it did Randy, to hear the stories of how Kingdom Advisors is intersecting with you and your work and your faith and giving it life and energy. And we're just delighted. You all are the reason we do what we do. You know, if we go back to the beginning, Kingdom Advisors was really birthed when these 16 founding advisors approached Ron Blue along with Larry Burkett and said, we believe that this network of advisors that numbered 16 could be much larger, and that your firm, Ronald Blue and Company, could be a little bit of the evidence, maybe the proving out of the opportunity to allow God's word to intersect with professional financial advice. And what if, Ron, there was thousands and thousands of financial professionals that were bringing God's word into their advice, that saw their practice as their ministry. And Ron, after a good bit of prayer, decided, you know what, that's exactly what we want to do. And for that first decade, we really just were asking the Lord, what does this look like? Is it a business? Is it a ministry? Are we a professional association? You know, at one point it was free to join, and we asked advisors to support us. And then we decided we needed a dues model. So there's a lot we needed to figure out. But what we knew was that as advisors were confronted with this training that we called the core training, it's now the CK educational program, that we knew God was doing something special as the Holy Spirit went to work in their lives, and they wrestled first with their own convictions, as was already referenced today, and then as they saw the opportunity to bring that into their client advice. And so, although there was a lot to figure out, we knew we had something that God wanted us to do. And then that second decade that we're just finishing, we're now 20 years old, was really all about building an industry around it. Now, I realize this is more fully built out in the U.S. than it is in Canada, and there's pieces that are coming into place, and we had a head start here, and so, you know, we're all working together as a part of the Kingdom Advisors family in the U.S. and Canada, and we will see, we believe, these pieces all in place in time in Canada as they are in the U.S. But what came to pass was really a true industry of Christian financial advice, where the advisor and the middle, at the center of it all, really understood their practice was their ministry. And around the advisor was all of these pieces: public demand, and an industry accepted designation, and universities training the next generation, and faith-based investing, investment providers and asset managers providing tools and solutions. And so we're just so excited about where we are today and really the opportunity we have in front of us. You know, we live, and I don't have to tell you this, but, we live in a time of incredible affluence, and yet we see discontent everywhere. And I believe the reason, despite the wealth that we have, is that there's so much discontentment is because we know on this call today that money can't satisfy. You know, if we just look at Hebrews 13:5, it's very clear there. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said he'll never leave us or forsake us. You see, when we apply a biblical worldview of money, we know that God owns it all and we're stewards, and money is a tool. The purpose of money is not to have more of it. It's to use it to accomplish goals that are informed by our values. And as believers, those values really start with our faith in Jesus Christ. But the exciting thing is that really we believe the future of financial advice is right in line with where we're headed. We believe the future of financial advice is differentiated and customized and uniquely tailored to the needs of the clients. In fact, I asked ChatGPT earlier today, what would be the single greatest opportunity to differentiate in the future for a wealth manager? And you know what ChatGPT said? It said customization, offering a highly personalized financial plan that deepens the understanding of the client's preferences, life stages, and values. Isn't that interesting? We're also seeing that, in other places in the industry. I pulled an article the other day from the Wall Street Journal. The title was, "If all you want is money, these financial advisors might say no thanks." And here's what it said. It said, advisors like, and the advisor that was featured in this article, his last name was Dole. He said, advisors like Dole said, making rich people richer as the sole goal of their work makes them uncomfortable. As a result, they might get pickier about who they take on or leave jobs they feel uneasy about. Advisors' professional recalibrations are occurring alongside an increase in recent years in the number of conversations with clients that address personal values, life goals, and well-being. Advisors discuss the bigger questions behind people's finances. Some are asking themselves similar to the ones about their own work. So we believe that the future of financial advice really aligns with this well. And what Michael Kitces, the blogger and industry thought leader, says is that based on their data, when you specialize in a target market with unique needs, you end up with a practice that's 55% more profitable. You end up spending 28% more time with clients. And the reason is because you can go deeper. And so here we are at the front edge of this amazing opportunity, which is incredible kingdom impact as we bring God's word to bear in our financial practices, starting with our own walk and convictions first, because you can't take a client where you haven't been. And you lay that alongside where financial services is headed around customized, uniquely tailored to the needs and the values of your clients. And we have an amazing opportunity, because what we know is that what Jesus said is absolutely true. And that is, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So your heart follows your money. And what that means is that you sit in an incredibly leveraged seat, because when you have conversations with clients about money, it's an open door to their heart. And it allows you to have purpose and meaning in your work that you haven't experienced apart from that opportunity to go deep beyond the numbers into their lives. And so we're so excited to serve and support you in that high calling. And what really gets us excited every day is for you to have that new purpose and meaning, and ultimately for that kingdom impact to occur as your clients live this out. So there's a lot more we could talk about. What I would say, Lauren, to the second part of that, and then I'll kick it back to you in terms of how we might have tweaked the vision. I think as we build on these first 2 decades of figuring out the model of how we were going to take this to the market, and then how we were going to put an industry around it, we believe that the future is really about a few things. Number one, it's about engaged learning. So we want to move away from talking heads and get you into peer-to-peer learning environments. One of the things we're introducing at the conference this year, alongside our traditional breakouts, is what we call workshops, where you'll actually only get about 15 minutes of teaching, and then you'll go to work on actually how you deliver this biblically wise financial advice and investments in a real world setting with peers as you actually work on what you're learning. So engaged learning, we think, is a big new opportunity for us. The second is what we call connected communities. And so what you're going to see from us at Kingdom Advisors in the future is the opportunity to connect with the other 3,500 Kingdom Advisors around the world, frankly. And we think this is uniquely suited for you in Canada, because you all are so geographically dispersed. We want to give you ways to come together, not only in person, that's important, but really leveraging some world-class technology to put you in groups around mastermind groups where you can encourage and bring best practices to the table, topical groups where you can go deep on a particular topic with a set of like-minded peers where there might be a subject matter expert, even specialized curriculums where you might be learning how to deliver legacy planning or faith-based investments alongside a cohort of other peers that have a similar practice type to you. So we think the connected communities piece is going to be big. You'll see a lot more from us on that next year. And then success stories. So we want to tell the stories of the advisors like you who are having incredible impact in their practices with their clients. There's an amazing innovation happening across our network, but it's not helpful if those stories stop with us. We need you to know how your peers literally around the globe are deploying this faith-based counsel. And so we're going to start telling those stories in a much more compelling way. In fact, at the conference this year, John Reinhardt is releasing his new Gospel Patrons film. And it's actually the story of a Kingdom Advisor and her husband and their journey. It's incredible. And then at our recent Champions Forum in Scottsdale, Arizona, we just captured a client testimony. We're going to start telling those stories as well, just to spur others on to what's possible. So engaged learning, connected communities, and success stories will be a big part of what we're doing in the days ahead. But, we're so excited about what's happening there in Canada, and it really is our honor to be able to come alongside you and support you.
Thanks, Rob. It's exciting and sometimes overwhelming to see what's happening. Especially, I know I go to the conference sometimes in Florida, and as a Canadian, I tend to get overwhelmed, particularly being the director, is how do we get more of this happening in Canada? Yeah. And I did want to say that one of the things that we have intentionally done is we are meeting in universities next year, 3 different Christian universities in Canada. Trinity Western in Langley, BC, that's on May the 7th. May the 9th, we're in Ambrose University in Calgary. And then May 16th, we're at Tyndale University in Toronto. So that's intentional because I think it's sowing seed when I see what's happening in universities, in Christian universities in the US. So exciting. And I think what's happening in Canada, even around faith-based investing, it's just in its infancy here. This is just getting started here. So going to the conference in the US is exciting, I guess, to see what's happening because it speaks to me of potential. And I always hear, well, Canada is different. We're more secular. It's more challenging. And I think maybe all of those things are true, but God is still God, and God desires to accomplish something great in our country. So, Rob, back to you. I'd love for you to share a little bit more, I guess, about the conference. Some on this call, I don't believe have ever been to a KA conference. Some have been there multiple times. Some are going for the first time this year. So if you have anything you'd like to highlight very quickly of the conference.
Yeah, before I do that, let me just say to your point about Canada, we're just a little further ahead. I believe with all of my heart that Canada will look a lot more like the U.S. in just as it relates to Kingdom Advisors in the days ahead, meaning that we'll have these pieces in place. We'll have the universities. We'll have more public demand. We'll have product on the shelves from the faith-based investing providers. We need to pray. I mean, let me just tell you, a decade ago, we approached Edward Jones about one of the big firms here in the U.S., 19,000 advisors. We approached them about approving Certified Kingdom Advisor and for use by their advisors. And they said, not only are we not going to approve it, if you ever get an application from an Edward Jones advisor, we want you to shred it. And we said, okay. And here we are a decade later. And late last year, December of last year, they gave us a full approval. Not only did they approve it, they said, we're going to pay for every advisor that wants to get it and their dues once they get it. The CEO of Edward Jones, Penny Pennington, is going to be at the conference this year with the number 2, Ken Sella, as well. And they said, we want to know from you how we can be the leader among all the other firms in Christian financial advice. Well, I mean, that's just by God's grace that we've come that far. So it's a matter of prayer. It's a matter of just staying committed to the call that God has placed on our lives. And I believe we will see that kind of momentum and the Lord just breaking and tearing down walls that we've seen here in the U.S. happen in Canada. So we're going to be joining you and praying for that. And we're committed to working alongside you to see that come to pass.
I do believe, I do believe on that note, Edward Jones, that offer applies to Canada as well. And we have one Edward Jones CKA right now in Canada.
That's great.
And I know he does know of other advisors who are Christian there. So, so that's exciting. But sorry to cut you off, Rob.
No, it's fine. So I was just going to pivot to the conference. It's so hard to explain it unless you've experienced it. I mean, imagine walking into a room with, we think we're 15% ahead of last year right now as we're tracking week to week. So we think we could have 2,200 advisors in Orlando this February. Imagine walking into a room where the 2,200 advisors are lifting their praises to the Lord in worship. with incredible Bible teaching. From the main stage, we try to program that to just be a spiritual encouragement to you as an advisor, to really invest in you with just really deep Bible teaching from people like Alistair Begg and Mark Batterson this year, to really encourage you and give you a new vision for the opportunity to be on mission in your practice. That'll come from Casey Crawford, who's just a dynamic former NFL player who's a leader in his own right, but just really passionate about the work that you do. Dennis Rainey and his wife Barbara will be there on Valentine's Day, sharing from their new book, 50 ways to invest in your marriage after 50 years, the 50 lessons they learned. They're going to pick 5 of them and help you apply them to your clients in terms of money and marriage. So it's just going to be incredible. And then when you get into the breakouts and the workshops, I mean, imagine choosing from 30 different breakouts and workshops, all about the how-tos of biblical client counsel, faith-based investing, personal spiritual growth, practice management. We really cover the waterfront, and then we add some just really fun things on top of that, like a concert from Jeremy Camp on Tuesday night, and really this new move toward connected communities. You'll see that come to fruition at the conference as well through what we call meetups. You put all that together in a destination setting, and there's just nothing like it. So I would just challenge you, if you haven't been, make this the year that you come to the conference. I know it's a long way. Once you get there, you'll be glad you're there, and you will leave changed, not because of anything we did, but because of what the Lord will do. I'm confident of that.
And there will be, just so you know, immediate meetup for Canadians. Actually, there's going to be a couple. We're adding that to our mix this year, along with the typical gathering that we normally do during the conference. Plus, I'm expecting there will be a social event that we will have for Canadians. We may invite you along, Rob. We'll see how that goes to participate in that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd certainly love to have you there for sure. But we look forward to that opportunity come February. I'd love for you to chat a little bit, Rob, about the international impact that Kingdom Advisors is having. And I guess particularly around the conference, because we do have attendees from different countries around the world. And by the way, I want to let everybody know, if you have a question for Rob, we are going to have a few minutes after our discussion to give you an opportunity to ask a question of Rob. So internationally, Rob, talk to us about that.
Well, listen, I mean, this is God's word applied to financial decision making, which is applicable everywhere. I mean, at the core of our teaching are principles that are found in Scripture, and that transcends tax codes and economies and anything else. So this is a message that needs to go far and wide. We see the U.S. and Canada really as the base that we're going to build from. Anybody else in other parts of the world, we're going to make our membership available just so they can access resources if they want to start study groups, but we're not going to really support that, as a full-blown Kingdom Advisors operating in other countries. We want to be open-handed about this and let others take it and run with it, and use Kingdom Advisors as a support. But really, the U.S. and Canada is going to be our focal point, in the future. So what you all are doing is vital to what's happening here. We see this as one Kingdom Advisors, the U.S. and Canada. And as I said, we're just, praying that God will give us some of these open doors into some of these other pieces of the Christian financial industry there. But it's critical to have your involvement. And, we see ourselves as really one family.
That's awesome. And Rob, I don't know about anybody else on the call, but I find it encouraging how you've incorporated Canada into this, and, to recognize that we're a player in growing this internationally. Absolutely. And in one of our study groups, it's interesting, we have a couple of attendees from the UK, and they intentionally wanted to connect with a Canadian study group because we're all part of the Commonwealth. So that's interesting. And I had a message from one of those advisors, and he is attending the conference this year. And he said, is it okay if I bust your party, is how he put it, at the conference? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So So we look forward to that. But that's exciting to hear that for sure. One last question, and then I'm going to open it up for anybody who has a question for yourselves. Talk about the Champions program. You've kind of mentioned it, hit on it a little bit, but how significant is the role of a champion to the moving forward and advancing the mission of Kingdom Advisors?
Yeah, it really is critical. You know, every movement has a group of leaders that really are the carriers of the message. And for us, that's the champions. I mean, this is the group that is the most committed to what we're doing. They're willing to invest their time. They value the community of other champions, which has really become a key part of the Champions program, the relationships that have been built with other very successful kingdom-minded leaders, but then not the least of which is the financial support that's really helped us to just advance this movement beyond what we would have been able to do just relying on dues alone. So it's just a vital part of what we're doing, and we would invite you to be a part of that group, to be some of the carriers of this message, the stakeholders, if you will, investing your time and also your resources into the success of this movement, because we believe there's a lot at stake. And, this is the group that is leading the charge on the front edge of everything that we're doing. I will say that the forum each year has become really just a unique gathering of men and women who are particularly committed to this cause, and they find a lot of value in just encouraging one another, sharing best practices. And so that's come to be something that's really special each fall in a destination setting. There's another gathering of the champions at the conference each year as well. So this is a vital group for us. It's key to our success, and we would love to have you be a part of it. Let me also say that we did launch in 2017 a consumer side of our ministry. It was called MoneyWise, now FaithFi, and that's been a really big part of this ecosystem or industry that we talk about, because that's really the organization that is tasked with two things. Number one is creating the demand for CKA, but the second is, and this is where we're going to Lauren's question around what am I tweaking as the CEO, we're adding to that, not only creating the demand, but really FaithFi, our consumer ministry, is going to be charged with preparing the hearts of the future clients of the Kingdom Advisors. And we're going to do that by really going deep into Scripture and equipping God's people to really confront the money idol. And we're going to do that in part through new 4-week studies that we're producing. If you come to the conference this year, you will get a copy of our first 4-week study called Rich Toward God. It's a deep study into the parable of the rich fool in Luke 12. And it's awesome. And it's a high quality production, printed piece. There'll also be a digital experience in the FaithFi app, taking folks in to understand what does it mean to live rich toward God and not, see our value in the abundance of our possessions. And so that will be the first of many studies that we'll come out with. And that, alongside the radio show and the podcast and all the content we're producing, is really going to be a vital part of what we're building here at Kingdom Advisors. So we'd love for you to get more involved and learn more about FaithFi along the way.
Yeah, that is exciting. And I think a lot of advisors want to go deeper. It's kind of like what comes after the training. Well, we have our study groups, but is there anything else? Because there is a look and okay, how do we dig deeper into Scripture to discover more about money and life change in that area, because it's only when we're transformed that we can bring that to our clients. So I'm going to open it up. We've got about 15 minutes left, 15 minutes or less, I would say. Any questions from any of you? If you want to jump into the conversation, just unmute yourself and ask any question you might have of Rob.
Rob, I have a question. It's more of a comment question type of thing. A lot of the monthly studies is focused on the rich and wealthy, while most of our clients are starting families and trying to survive in Vancouver with high costs of everything and still trying to be faithful. So are you guys going to be producing content studies around that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So on the study groups in particular, we really do try to, cover a wide range of topics. So this month, if you haven't been to your study group yet, it is really around next gen wealth inheritors and what you need to know as advisors around the next generation. I think with last month, generosity discipleship, we hope that, that would be applicable to everybody. The month before that was on faith-based investing, and then Mitch Anthony on defining conversations. Jeff Hainan was a few months ago on helping your clients find a better story for their retirement. So I think what you'll find is that, although certain, some of them will cater to a higher net worth client, the vast majority of them, 9 out of 12, usually will deal with a topic, I think, that will be very appropriate, whether you're talking about, mass affluent, wealthy, high net worth, or even ultra high net worth. And we do try to be really intentional to make sure we select topics that, can be applied no matter what kind of practice you have. Because here's the reality. I mean, I'm looking at the breakdown. So today, 1,405 of what we think will be 2,200 have registered for the conference. And as I look at that, about, of the roughly 60% of those that are advisors, because the rest are spouses and partners and students, it's pretty distributed pretty evenly in terms of the client segment between mass affluent, affluent, and high net worth. About 20% in each category. And then only about 5% are ultra high net worth in terms of the advisors we serve and the kind of practices that they've built. So a lot of our advisors, are working on the mass affluent and the affluent, not the high net worth and ultra high net worth. And so we really are focused on making sure that we have topics that, can serve advisors serving in those market segments. I would also say that the work that we're doing at FaithFi is really around, it's focusing on, so we break on the consumer side, we break the clients up into struggling, solid, and surplus. And our focus is solid plus at FaithFi. And so we want to meet somebody, right where they're at, not dealing with, issues that only affect the super wealthy, but really dealing with the issues that affect the everyday person, who's applying God's wisdom in their financial life. They've got some assets, but they're still early in the journey and dealing with them and around their heart issues. So I would hope, and I appreciate the feedback, but I would hope you would find a lot of value in what we're producing, even if you're not serving an ultra high net worth client.
Yeah, because I have my own group that I lead with my team. And the last 4 or 5 videos that we've watched, when it comes to the topic of conversation, and they're like, it's just not applicable to any of our clients that we work with. Like, there's no conversation, right? That's why most of the time when it's time for us to watch the video, after the conversation's pretty dead.
Interesting. Yeah, we just don't get a lot of that feedback. So I received that. Let me take that back to the team, and we'll certainly add that to the filter. Our creative team meets once a quarter to plan out. So we're already, 3/4 of next year is already planned. But I will share that feedback with the team and make sure we're constantly looking at our content through that lens.
Thank you.
Excellent. And we do have some study group leaders who are on the call. If you want to comment on that, you certainly can. But any other questions?
Rob, this will be my first conference, God willing. My wife and I come from Western Canada all the way to Florida. Great. And you mentioned that there were going to be 30 breakout sessions. Is that right? And if that's the case, could you can we get a list of all the topics? Because if I talk to other people about, flying thousands of miles, not just to escape the cold, but to learn something, they say, what are you going to be learning? And so it'd be great if I could say, well, here's a catalog, here's a menu of things we're going to be talking about. I think that'd would help me make up my mind, and also be a bit of an advertising ploy or tool for you folks.
Yeah, I've got good news for you. It's all there. So if you will head to kingdomadvisors.com and you would just go /2024, that will take you to the conference website. And then if you scroll down, it's about 3/4 of the way down, just below the schedule, you'll see something that says breakout and workshop sessions. And you're actually able to see all of them. When you click on each of the cards, it will open up a description of every breakout or workshop. You can even filter them by just show me the ones on investing, just show me the ones on planning, just show me the ones on practice management. So it's all there. Our conference app will launch in January, and you'll actually be able to go in and register and add the sessions that you want to go to your personal agenda in the app. But right now is the time for you to start reading about all of them and picking the ones that you ultimately want to register for.
That's interesting. Are there any on there on cash flow management?
I don't believe specifically on cash flow management. Of the 25 that are here, I don't think there is one there. Apart from, we are doing a session from FaithFi on how you disciple your clients using FaithFi. And the FaithFi app is a phenomenal tool for cash management. And in that workshop, we're actually going to teach you how to use it with your clients. So you could check that one out specifically on that topic.
Rob, on that note, how many advisors, or maybe you don't know, are actually using the app or promoting the app with their clients? Because I know that app does work in Canada. All the major Canadian banks can be utilized using that app. So I wonder if we're actually underutilizing that.
Yeah, I think we are. We're going to try to change that. So one of the reasons we're moving in the direction of these studies is we'll not only have a beautifully printed version of every study, so you could order a case of them if you like them and give them to your clients. For instance, I mentioned the first one's on Rich Toward God. The second one we're working on is on fear and economic uncertainty. And it's a 21-day daily devotion for your clients to overcome the fear around economic uncertainty and trusting the Lord. All of these will not only be in a printed version that you could hand to somebody, but in the FaithFi app, there'll be an amazing kind of story-based style immersive experience. So you'll open up the study and you'll see a person on the screen talking to you. Then you'll flip to the next screen and you'll have scripture, and then you flip to the next screen and you can answer a question. The team has just done incredible work on building these digital experiences. The reason I tell you that is what we believe we'll see is more and more Kingdom advisors that are buying group subscriptions for their clients, adding it to the value add of their practice, which gives them access to all the studies and gives them the cash management features that Lauren was just referring to, where they can track all of their spending according to Live, Give, Oh, Grow, and digitally connect to their bank. So we're really trying to build the app as a client discipleship tool and make that something that is really attractive to you as an advisor.
Excellent. Any other questions? We got a few minutes left if you have a question. Kind of reminds me of my pastor days when you're asking people to testify. Is there one more? All right. Seems like there are no final questions, so that's good. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I want to say again how grateful I am for all of your support, and even for those who are not on the call who will probably watch this replay. Kingdom Advisors is happening in Canada because of you. And I want to recognize that, not just for your financial support, but also for your connection with others, because you are people of influence. I know that. I recognize that. And you do put Kingdom Advisors in front of other people of influence. And that is how we are growing. So I really appreciate that. I want to wish you all the best for the Christmas season.
Let me just add one thing, Lauren, real quick, is just to say we would not be here today without the vision of Lauren Jackson. And I see Lauren on the call today. And Lauren, just so thankful for you in those early days to put this together. It was such a privilege when you open-handedly said, I want to give you advisors with purpose and help you take it and make it bigger and explore that or expand that opportunity. So thank you for your vision and your commitment.
Thank you, Rob, for that. Actually, I was saying to Kathy today, I think it was December 2016, when we had you, Rob, on the call. We were bringing Kingdom Advisors into Canada. And we had, I don't know if we had any champions at that point, to be completely honest. So it was just kind of selling the vision of what Kingdom Advisors is all about. And we may have had some of you, I don't know if you can remember, some of you may have been on that call. I know, Lauren, you were on that call for sure. Brian may have been on that call. Tim, Tom, maybe. But I was just recalling that, and to see what God has continued to do, because you're right, Lauren has had the vision and had a membership in place, and that transferred over to Kingdom Advisors in the US, and we've continued to grow Canada and the US as a combination. And I'm excited to see all that's going to happen in the future, and I'm so glad that you are all part of it. I'm sad that none of our female champions are on the call today. All men on this call, but grateful for you and for your leadership. Merry Christmas, everyone. And thanks, Rob. God bless.
Thank you, Lauren. God bless you.